Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Today in the kitchen we're going to do some what we have for dinner, and these are all new recipes except the black eyed peas. They were on a previous one. I was just asked for the directions on those. So let's get in that kitchen. You come join me and see what we can cook up for this week. We're going to start today's recipes with the Hamburger steaks. The first thing I'm going to do is slice up the onion. You want to do it fairly thin. I have 2 pounds of hamburger. I'm cutting it into quarters, and we're going to shape each quarter into a donut shape, about 1/2 inch thick, and you want to put a hole in the center, and that allows it to cook evenly. The hole does fill as the hamburger cooks. Now I'm heating the oil in the skillet over a medium heat. I'm going to dip each patty into the flour, making sure that I coat it all over, and then we're going to cook it until it's brown, 3 to 5 minutes on each side. The camera didn't turn on for the next segment. What I did is I moved the patties to one side. I added the onions on the other side. I cooked the onions until they were lightly browned. It took about 3 to 4 minutes. And then I spread the hamburger patties back out among the onions and poured the beef broth into the skillet. You then cover it, continue cooking until the meat is no longer pink. I checked mine with a thermometer, and it took about 10 minutes. You take out the hamburgers and serve with the gravy. I found the gravy to be too thin. I put some cornstarch in here. I don't know what I was thinking. Don't do that. Do a slurry. It dissolves in the gravy so much easier. So mix your cornstarch with some water and then pour it in and mix it up. Mine did thicken eventually, but it's much easier with the slurry. So here are our finished plates. They were absolutely delicious. We had ours with potatoes and green beans with a little onion. Here are your ingredients, and I hope you give it a try. This is a great Mexican chicken casserole that we thoroughly enjoyed. The first thing I did was grate up some sharp cheddar cheese. This was about 8 ounces. In this bowl I have about 2 pounds of shredded chicken already cooked, and I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients: rice, soup, sour cream, onion, rotel, cumin, garlic powder, and chicken broth, and half the cheese. Now I will have all these ingredients in a link in the description box below. When you click on the link, it'll take you to a page that has all the recipes that I'm sharing today, along with their ingredients, their amounts, and the directions of how to make the recipe. No need to write everything down. This is chicken broth that I saved from where I cooked the chicken, and I'm going to put the rest of this in the fridge, and that way I can use it in my next recipe that needs chicken broth. Now we've got everything in here, we're going to give it a good stir to combine, and then we'll put it into a baking dish, 9 by 13, and make sure you spray that so nothing sticks. And I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees. I'm going to put the mixture in here, top it with the remaining cheese, and we'll bake that until it's bubbling. It took about 30 minutes, and then we served it with chips, but we felt like it needed salsa, so I'm adding salsa to the ingredients, and I hope you give this one a try. I'll show you the finished plate coming up. It was really good, and it went a long way. We had it for 2 days. On our New Year's Day, we did black-eyed peas, and I had filmed them and asked if anybody wanted the recipe, and I did have a viewer request it, so I'm going to pop it in here. First thing we're going to do, we're going to set our pan on saute medium heat. We're going to chop the bacon, put the oil in here, and cook that until it's browned. When the bacon is mostly done, we're going to add in the chopped onions. I just use frozen. We're going to saute the onion until it's soft, and then we're going to add in the garlic for the last couple minutes of the saute process. After that, we're going to add our garlic powder, sugar, salt and pepper, and stir everything well. Next is our beef stock and our crumble bouillon cube. And I said beef stock. This is chicken broth. My apologies. And then a couple teaspoons of the beef bouillon, or you can just put a cube in there. Now we're going to add the black-eyed peas. I went with frozen. You can do frozen or fresh. You need about 1.5 pounds. I want to put these in here, give it a stir, and bring it to a boil. Now reduce it to a simmer and cook it for about 2 hours until the peas are tender. Add more broth or water if needed. Here was our finished plate. Here are your ingredients, and I'll have the link in the description box below to the recipe. Here we have a super simple pork roast in the crock pot, and it calls for a 4 to 5 pound pork roast. And then you're going to need some carrots cut up, onion cut up, and 4 to 6 medium-sized potatoes, unpeeled, scrubbed, and cubed. I used red, that's what I had on hand. So I'm first of all cutting up all the veg. Now I'm putting the pork roast into the slow cooker insert and finishing up by putting the potatoes in, and I used, instead of salt and pepper, the potato slayer seasoning, which I have started to really enjoy. I didn't only put it on the potatoes, I put it on my roast too. Now I'm going to add the carrots that I already had. I were left over and I just had them in the fridge for this meal. And now I'm going to chop up the onion and get that on there as well. Now for the last step, we're going to put a can of a cream of mushroom soup on the top, and then we're going to set this. I did high, I think for like 4 hours. You can also do it on low if you have the time. It's 7 to 8. Now the first night we neglected to take pictures of our dinner, but we had a lot of the pork roast left over, so on day 2 we just reheated it, added some barbecue sauce, and made sandwiches out of it with fries. So I did picture those. Here we are setting it on day 1, and here I am adding the barbecue sauce for the sandwiches on day 2. So it does go a long way. Here are our finished plates, and I'll have the ingredients at the end here. And again, for all the recipes, there'll be a link in the description box below, which will take you to ingredients and directions for all of the recipes shown today. Today we're going to make a Yorkshire pudding casserole. Now I love Yorkshire pudding coming from England. It's something I miss over here, and I didn't have high hopes for this tasting like Yorkshire pudding, I will say. Now it wasn't identical, but I tasted something in there that certainly resembled Yorkshire pudding, and it was a delicious meal, so I hope you give it a try. The first thing we're going to do is mix our beef with the 1 beaten egg, some oats, Worcestershire sauce, salt and pepper, and then we're going to make 16 meatballs. And it said to put them on an 8x8 baking pan. I put them on a baking sheet, that's what I thought, but it was actually a casserole dish. So an 8x8 casserole dish is what you need. Now that I have it mixed up, I'm just basically cutting it into 4 sections. That way I can make 4 meatballs out of each quarter, and then I'll end up with 16. Now we're going to mix the egg. We're going to beat those up. Then we're going to add some milk, melted butter. Instead of melting butter, I've got this new butter that comes in a bottle, and I use it for my bread now instead of using stick butter, and it works really well. So I just put it in here instead of having to melt it in the microwave. Turned out wonderful. Now we're going to mix the flour and the baking powder in another bowl, and then we'll mix the egg mixture and everything together until it's all blended, and then we pour that over the meatballs. Now I have the oven heating up to 350 degrees. The first thing I've got to do is spray my casserole dish and get the meatballs in it, and then we'll pour the mixture on top, and this will go in that 350 degree oven for 50 minutes or until the batter's puffed and golden, and I did check to make sure my meatballs were cooked through. All you need now is some brown gravy. I went with a jar. You could make your own. This was, like I said, absolutely delicious, and I served ours with green beans. Here are your ingredients. If you made it to the end of the video, be sure to leave me a pot or pan emoji in the comments. That way I know you were here, and I'll see you guys on Friday. Have a great week.